of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd actually like to start with introductions, roll call, just so that people know who's sitting here. Mr. Otto, do you want to just start?
My name is Jeffrey Otto. I'm the Board of Finance liaison to the Board of Education.
I'm Keith Ashenson.
May Lyons.
Kelly Conn.
Amy Jenna. John Travella.
Nate Richards.
And Patty Buell, Superintendent.
I'm Kathy Erickson. I'm the new Finance Director for the town.
Thank you for introducing yourself. Because this is the first meeting with our new board member and the first meeting after elections, we do need to hold officer elections. In your packet, you'll find a little deck of cards. We're going to start with, I get to start the meeting with nominations for chairperson. Do we have any nominations for chairperson?
I would like to nominate Amy Jenna.
Joan?
You're welcome.
Any second?
A second.
May? Any other nominations for chairperson? Hearing none. The ballots, so the voting for the positions has to be public. So you'll see each of you have a card that say chairperson. So it asks that you write Amy Jenna on there since she's the only candidate. And cast your vote and pass it down to me, please.
Like check off next to our name.
Check off next to your name if you're voting, you know, if you're voting or
Oh,
I suppose you can abstain. Sorry. Apologize. Put your name.
Oh, no, no.
I had to write my name twice. So you're gonna have to tell me next time.
Oh, was it our name? No, he wrote his name there.
Wait, are we supposed to
Put
write
our
our
name on the
pictures?
top?
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
the person who's voting is the name on the top? No, that's
So
so
you're-
you're nominated.
Okay, let me start again. Sorry. Amy is nominated for
So the
chairperson.
person you're voting for is here.
Yes.
Okay, and then you check off who you are.
Check off who you are.
Check off who you are.
Who you are.
All right, I got it. That's how I fixed Keith's.
I got mine better.
We
did it backwards.
We just did it backwards.
I apologize.
I did it right at all directions. That was easy. I got one right. All right.
So I've received all 6 votes and Amy received all 6 votes for chairperson.
Congratulations.
I'd like to turn over the meeting to the chairperson to conduct the rest of the elections.
Thanks. Next on the list for positions is vice chairperson. So I would entertain a motion for vice chairperson.
I'll nominate John Travella.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Do I have any other nominations for vice chairperson? Hearing none, I close the nominations. So the nominee for vice chairperson is Joan Travella. All right. Next position up for nominations is the secretary. I would entertain motions for a nomination for secretary.
Nominate Keith Atchison.
A second.
Okay. Any other nominations for secretary? Hearing none, I close the nominations. The candidate up for nomination is Keith Atkinson.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Right.
So 6 votes for each of those 2 positions. Thank you.
Okay. And Okay. So I see we got some friends tonight, so thank you all very much for coming and participating with this evening. I just wanted to send out a reminder for everyone, just in case that you haven't attended a Board of Ed meeting in the past, that we're just asking if you'd like to state your name and address for the record, and you can direct your comments directly to the BOE for consideration. But the BOE is not permitted to engage in a discussion or answer questions during the public comment period. But we're welcome you to share your thoughts and questions regarding the topics that are on our agenda, and we will consider your input and get back to you with any answers that we have. So at this point in time, do we have any public comment? Oh,
I would.
sorry.
Because I kind of have to go through. My name is Anna Clouder. I'm 55 Allen Hill Road. And I was here earlier to hear about the budget cuts, and that may be intended, just say. And I just want you to please consider, honestly and truly, not cutting as much as you can. I know it will be difficult, but what I'm asking you to consider is the quality of education that you're providing for your students. Your kids, my kids went here, I went here, it was great. I'm asking on behalf of my nieces and nephews, as they are not here, but you know, it's a good school. You have a good school. You have a staff that cares about each other. So I think that means a lot. So I know it's not money. I can't give you money. I wish I could, can't. But please take into consideration not cutting as much staff as you need. Please. Also, I was thinking, if all my years here, I have noticed that Dr. Berry has always gave back to the town. I think it's time now that the town, we ask the town to help us. We've always helped you in giving back to the town. Now we're asking for your help. So I'm just throwing that out there. So, thank you.
And a public comment, right? Okay. All right.
I'd like to ask that we add an agenda item.
Sure.
Under new business 8B, we need to add an acceptance of retirement. And 8B under administrative reports. Yeah. And then also as number 15, if we could add executive session, no action expected to be taken, so people don't hang around and wait for us to come out regarding board evaluation.
Where are we putting that at the end?
Yeah, I would say 15. Yeah, 14A, 14A.
16?
No, 14A. 14A.
Picture and then go to.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just scribbling.
What was B? That's
8B.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, so Jones made a motion to add 2 agenda items. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Kelly, any comments or discussions? No. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. All right. So I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the October 25th Board of Ed meeting. Don't all jump at once.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the October meeting.
No second.
Comments or questions? All in favor? And Mrs. Buell, do we have correspondence and communication that we need to?
Sure. I have a couple that I want to share with you. We did receive, the Brooklyn Public Schools did receive a donation of a flat screen TV from Manish Patel. Donated that, and it is already installed in the middle school library. So we do have a thank you note for that donation that was accepted. We greatly appreciated her with their generosity. Just today, we received a notification from Norwich Free Academy that has made a commitment in writing to us to provide transportation for our students who are currently attending there or are attending for the next 2 school years, so until June of 2020. So I will respond. I have not written a response yet for that. I have a thank you letter. There was a donation made by an individual who requested to remain anonymous. Was made to the Brooklyn Public Schools in the amount of $1,000 to reduce the lunch program cost for some children. So that money was donated to the activity account and will be used if a child should have a hardship and needs money. So we have informed the food service manager about that, and we'll be able to access that for students that's needed. So a thank you note is written to her as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, there's one more. It's part of the, I'll share these with you, but it's a copy of a notice that Mrs. Pant is one of our remedial teachers here, had applied for and received funding to offer Reflex Math. It's a online math program. It's also listed in the Brooklyn's Best, but there's a copy of the notice that she received. So I'll pass those down if anyone would like to look at this. Thank you.
All right, and for Brooklyn's Best.
Okay, so I'll actually start with with B. I want to introduce Carolyn Hetrick, if you want to just come forward. Carolyn is a new hire. She started on Halloween without kids.
Without kids, there are no kids here.
Carolyn is our new food service manager and has been on board. And if you smell this room, we've got some great aromas going here. So I asked her if she would come and just put a face to a name so that people could see who she is. And I asked her to just tell us a quick little bit about yourself and what you're doing in our cafeterias.
Well, it's nice to meet everybody. I get a little shaky when I talk in front of people, so just bear with me. I have been a manager for 11, 12 years. I have 3 degrees from Johnson & Wales University as a food service manager, restaurant manager, and a minor in food and beverage. I've worked in food since I was 13, that's all I know. However, all of my experience is restaurants, catering, retail, never a school system. Soups, we started soups. We're doing samples this week, but it goes on the menu effective December 1st. These are all fresh, never frozen, down to the parsley that goes in it is fresh. Some of the best soups I've ever had. We have all kinds of flavors. This week we sampled chicken noodle, cream of broccoli, and loaded baked potatoes in both schools to all the students and to all the staff. I've had nothing but rave reviews. So they're going to be an alternate option for students and hopefully bring more staff into the cafeteria and try and get away from the cafeteria feel of food. So far it's a hit. And some other things we're trying to change is I will be upgrading the system, the payfor.net. Right now, the system only allows the parents to see transaction that the students does at school, such as lunches or snacks, and any deposits they make online. But once we upgrade, they're going to get the exact view I have. So they can see all the deposits that they send into the school that they can't see right now. They can set their own restrictions so their students aren't buying chips or ice cream or lunch in general. So that should help. I'm trying to think what else. That's really about it. I got a few other, I can't think of everything right now. But I am very excited to be here. So far it's good. I've got no issues, no complaints.
Very excited to have you. If you can handle Big Y, you can handle anything.
Yeah, I was a food service manager at Big Y for 4 years.
Right.
So as far as the soups go, I have 10 bowls ready to go for you guys to try it and check it out. There are some extra bowls and spoons if anybody wants to try after. Like I said, it's really good. It's some of the best soup.
That's great, thank you. Nice treat, you never get food.
Thank you. Do you want to bring it from all warm and then?
Sure.
We'll sit here and eat it behind TV.
But you can at least taste it.
Right.
I was thinking of work.
Yeah. Right. Yay, salad bar?
I have that today, actually.
Can we throw our own? Oh, this is great, thank you.
So we're excited that the kids are enjoying it and kind of branching out
Are
a
they
little bit.
choosing?
So right now, it's just a sample. So she's given them a little sample and she's given out a lot of samples. So it's gone every day, so.
They even like the peanut butter.
Really?
You just don't call it that, right?
Well, I was only gonna do, for the elementary school, I was only gonna do, chicken noodle all month as an alternate, because I didn't think my kids don't eat cream of broccoli. So, but I let them try the other stuff we had. This is the very big potato and the cream of broccoli this week.
It's my daughter's favorite, the loaded.
It's my favorite too. They loved it. They loved it. So because of that, there's a huge possibility I will open it up to them to to have some more. The middle school, we're doing it on a week-to-week basis. So the first week in December, their alternate's chicken and roll. The second week is loaded baked potato. The third week is cream of broccoli. So, and I can bring in, I think there's 20 flavors.
What do you serve with it for the alternate?
What do you mean?
Like
They'll still get their full meal. We do a dinner roll with it, and I'm also bringing in individual crackers. But they'll still get their regular full meal with it as well, their sides.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, very exciting.
Very good.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So I invite anybody that's standing, please come in and sit. There are seats if you choose to. And while the soup's there, please help yourself. I'd rather it go because then I won't have to put it away at the end of the night. Thank you.
Really good.
Enjoy
Really
it.
good.
So under Brooklyn's Best, just again, I updated the sheet for you, the one that's in your packet. For those people that are new to this, Brooklyn's Best is really an opportunity to celebrate the great things that are going on at the Brooklyn Public Schools. And so you'll have to tolerate me because I have a very long list tonight. The Brooklyn Middle School, the boys soccer team were finalists. They ended in second place. The girls soccer were semi-finalists and were in fourth place. Girls cross country ended in second place. Lindsay Aarons, though, was the lead champion. She's the state champion for the middle school cross country team. Enrica Desabota is one of our teachers from the middle school. She was honored as the Teacher of the Year. She's our Teacher of the Year. We're very, very proud of her and well-deserved. She was honored both locally by the Davidson Lions and at the statewide recognition in Hartford. And I just want to tell you an example of, well, May was there, so at the local, and Mr. Ives was there for the local recognition, but we had a huge number of our teachers show up to support Enrica. I think our team, the Brooklyn, would represent about half of the whole room. So it's really just amazing. It just speaks to what a great staff we have here. The National Junior Honor Society hosted the Veterans Day events. It was a wonderful day for veterans and for students and staff. Our 8th graders, finally, we've been talking, it's 4th graders and 8th graders are being recognized on Tuesday, December 5th for the Superintendent's Award. Lily Gutierrez and Connor Stewart are 8th graders, and oh, I'll tell you the elementary when we get down there. So that ceremony is Tuesday at 6:30, and it is open to the public. It's at Killenly High School, so anybody can attend. It's a nice opportunity to recognize, to just call out a couple students, a boy and a girl, from each school in the oldest grade. At the elementary school, I want to recognize Sean Maloney. He was recognized for his contribution to the book titled Now, Classrooms grade 3 to 5. They're lessons for enhancing teaching and learning through technology. So he wrote a section of that book. So he submitted like a unit for that book.
So
So
I'd
we're-
love to see that. Is
Yeah.
it available online? Or
it is
on
available.
internet?
You can see it at Amazon. You can download. Yeah.
Sean selling autograph copies. of it.
You're probably right.
And then also for those parents who have children at the elementary school, you know that the report card has just come home, and the report card had
Not yet.
Oh, sorry, tomorrow. Sorry, the report cards has been revised, and the rubrics have been revised. It's a work in progress. We believe that it's a better reflection, a more accurate reflection of what teachers can report to you how children are performing. But a lot of hard work went into that. Art-paced students have been diligently working to beautify the Unified Arts wing with the mural. So if you have the opportunity to go down and see it, please do.
What is it?
It's right next, it's across from the music room next to the art room.
What are they painting?
It's just, there are just small sections of it. I can't tell.
We don't know
from the
yet.
outside.
I don't know what the end product is.
It's a zoo.
A zoo.
It's a zoo.
Okay.
Is it
Okay.
Yeah, I know that it says like giraffe up here and it's like elephant down here. They just, yeah,
That's
it's like
terrific.
sketched out. It's very cute.
Very nice.
Fourth grade students Ian Sherman and Shelby,
Eric could tell us.
thank you,
Mhm.
Gary could tell us, I get practice for Tuesday, have been selected as the fourth grade student superintendent's award winners. Also, the recognition is on December 5th at Killingly High School. Mrs. Brady's second grade class will be taking part in the Hour of Code. Students across the state participate in that. Code is a computer programming activity, and kids of all ages can participate, and so that's one of the things that she'll be doing on December 5th. I already shared with you that Mrs. Payton had applied for and received a grant for students here to be using Reflex Math. It really is a great differentiated online program to strengthen students' math fluency skills, especially. Finally, I want to congratulate Dave. He was the recipient of the Nealon Award. He was recognized as an outstanding social worker.
Judy Nyland Award, and Judy Nyland was the jogger who was murdered 12 years ago now in Woodstock, and she was a social worker in Woodstock Middle School. So much deserved. Happy for Dave.
Yeah.
I have a couple things to add to that, that's all right.
Great.
So I received an email from Kevin Marcoux at Killingly High School on the 8th of November, and I'm just going to read it to everyone here. So he said, "Hi Keith, we held our annual National Honor Society inductions last night. Wanted to send you a list of Brooklyn kids involved in that, so it was back on November 7th. So the current members of the National Honor Society, Stephen Weatherall, who's the president, he's a Brooklyn student. Zach Sheena, who's the vice president. Devin Turchetta is also part of the Honor Society. They were current members. And then inducted on the 7th was a senior Jacob Gauthier, juniors Taylor Jacks and Allison LeVake. And he also wanted to mention that he said also we recently selected Alexandra Purcell as one of our HOBY, which is the Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Representatives. She's one of two students representing KHS at the annual conference at the University of Bridgeport in June. And each school nominates one or two sophomore students each year to attend the conference. So he wanted to share that with everyone here. So good representation on the National Honor Society.
Thank you.
Administrative reports.
All right, so one of the things that I wanted the board to consider in your packet is a sample in the folder. Sorry, there is an offer for early retirement. So in this discussion around the budget and the budget reductions, it's a little bit of an early retirement incentive offer. I did share in concept that it's something that we would consider, and if approved, we would make an offer to teachers and non-certified staff potentially for an offer for early retirement. What that would look like, what the offer in a nutshell says is that if a teacher were inclined and eligible for retirement, they could indicate that they wanted to retire. They would need to sign and indicate that they were willing to retire at the end of December. They would receive a small incentive, financial incentive, $5,000. That this agreement, if we leave it as as written, would offer them the ability to maintain the district insurance until the end of June. The board would continue to pay their portion, so that's an additional financial incentive, and that the employee would still pay their portion or their share of the insurance, which would come off of that $5,000 cash kind of payout to them. So what you see is the lawyer version of that, which is 5 pages long, and but that's the idea. So I'd like to be able to, for the teachers, we started with the teacher plan. Potentially, if it's right for a particular teacher that they may choose to retire, it would it might be that a teacher was going to retire anyways. They might take an early retirement, saving some money when we have to factor in unemployment for teachers if we have layoffs.
And they have till the end of the day tomorrow.
Next Friday. So if the board would approve me offering this, that we give them until next Friday, they have to make a commitment to us. They know it's a possibility, so it's not a brand new concept for them. And I did explain that if it was approved, it would be a quick turnaround just for planning purposes. When I was approached by a non-certified employee, would you do it for us? There's not as much savings to the board by offering that. However, when I looked at the percentage, it's about a 6%. The 5,000 is about a 6% of their salary. So I factored that in. It would be about $2,600 roughly equivalent. If we followed that same logic of retire at the end of December with a slight payout, we could continue to offer insurance at our portion. So I would like to be able to put something together if the board is so inclined to allow me to offer that to non-certified. Again, this is something that we might not get anybody, but we might get one, we might get two. It has to be right for the right person.
I'd like to make a motion that we offer the voluntary retirement incentive plan to both certified and non-certified staff.
I have a question. I'm sorry. I have a question about this. So the retirement would be effective December 31st, you said?
Yes.
And then what happens if the teacher retires? They're not replaced? So
it depends. So if, as we look at the potential reductions, it depends on who the person is, what the position is. If it's something that we have to fill, it might be filled with someone who would have been laid off from the bottom, depending on certification. So once we make some decisions about potential reductions to staff or to our budget, there's a whole 2 or 3 layers after that. So the first layer is there anybody that is looking to retire? So that it might be a good thing for them as opposed to a challenge. So depending on who that is and what the position is, then we would, look at, do we have to fill that position, or is that a position we can leave vacant? We would have reduced anyways. So it just depends on who takes it, and I don't know who will take it.
Are there any other questions about that?
I have a lot of different questions about it.
It's not a requirement. It's completely voluntary, and we could have 0 people take it, and we could have 10 people.
I just have concerns about if you have multiple teachers in the same grade who take it up, then.
But it would be a shuffle. It would be a shuffle.
Yeah, it says
It's mid-year. It's I'm just thinking about
a minimum of 2, a max of 5.
That was what the plan had said. Again, I don't know because we've not asked for commitment, but some teachers have talked about it, and we may not get any. Right? So I don't think we'll get, multiple per grade level. To be honest, I think if we got one, that would be one level.
And that's just the way that the current staff is kind of shuffled out. Is that we don't have all people that are eligible for retirement all necessarily in the same grade, so they're kind of spread throughout.
Based on payouts and stuff, I know that's spread out over 2 years, half this year and half next year. Is there any estimate of savings? Again, it depends on the salary of the employee.
Depends on how many.
Assuming they're at top step,
If
they're then.
I have those numbers calculated. It's hard to know who that person is, but I would say that we're gonna save anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 for a person that takes an early retirement versus getting laid off on a lower pay scale and paying unemployment for that employee. That those costs multiply versus the reduction, so we have a bigger savings when we lay off.
So there will be some savings.
There would still be savings, yes. And I would say it's between 5,000 and 10,000, depending on the person and their insurance. And
The no early retirement doesn't always net you a huge savings in the first year.
Particularly when there's payouts for
Yeah,
vacation.
payouts, right.
But if it's I think at this point, we're looking at all potential options of.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't actually gonna end up
It is a
being.
savings, yes,
Yeah,
it
An
is.
expense.
You know,
And
but it's you take a little bit from here and a little bit from there, a little bit, so it's not.
It's
another
only
savings,
not
but-
cumulatively more, okay.
So, okay. All right, any other questions or discussion on accepting? We have a first motion acceptance to accept the MOU to present to the certified.
And a similar non-certified.
And a similar one MOU presented to the non-certified union as well. Okay, all in favor? Aye. So that's, all right, and then,
So the next thing is that you can see there's a copy of the current expenditure, the budget report. This is, just as a snapshot. You can see there are some deficits. Those are some of the numbers in parentheses. Those are negative numbers. Some of those are still related to grant-funded salary positions. We have not drawn down all of the grant funds yet. We have tried to anticipate as we drill down into this budget to project the potential savings that we have. We've tried to encumber what we really are anticipating we're going to spend by the end of the year. So you'll see on this document that we're still in the black for projecting for the end of the year. We have encumbered everything that we could potentially reasonably encumber. Are there any questions specifically? I think
This doesn't have the new Killenly High School figure in it, right?
it does.
It does?
Yeah.
But it's only 34,000.
We haven't received bills from all of our schools, so the ACT program, and I think there were a couple that we have not gotten all the bills yet.
So when we so that was, as we get each bill, it's gonna total up what we talked about.
Right.
So it's only short at this point, just that particular one,
Right.
35.
That's right. Thank you. I didn't start that one.
all right.
Yeah.
I'm looking at your different. This year thing.
Oh, sorry. So I think the discussion that we started today around the current year's budget, I think we need to continue that conversation. So we need to set some dates to have a follow-up discussion. We've had some opportunity to hear from the public. We'll have another public comment at the end of this meeting. So I think that I'd like to throw out some dates. We had a tentative date of Monday at between 2:30 and 4:30 for our next workshop meeting. I'd like to be able to get a commitment so we can post that meeting.
Works for me.
It's okay.
I just can't calculate.
Okay.
I'll try to leave like as early as I
That's,
can.
I think we just, the more that everybody can come, but even if it's some of it, I think we just need to hit the ground running with as much as possible.
A lot of information to digest.
So do you want to schedule anything beyond the 4th at this point in time, or just wait until we?
The only thing that I'm thinking is that because we because we're gonna offer that early retirement to staff, if we were to get a big response, it would change the way we make decisions.
Yeah.
I'm not anticipating a large response, so
But it's still weak.
right.
The response,
Right.
either yay or nay.
So it will factor, so their response, their answer is not until,
Okay.
so I think we should start the conversation on Monday. I would like to see how much of that conversation how many decisions we can make, because I think it's gonna be a multi-session.
Okay. Okay. Well, do you want to,
I
on
can
Monday, we can talk about
setting the
like
next meeting.
setting next dates? I mean, because we potentially could have some answers or not answers by Monday anyway, so we could be starting some of that conversation. All right, so we'll set a budget, another budget workshop for Monday, the 4th, from 2:30 to 4:30. And do that.
All right, and we have an 8B we were added to.
Yep. So go ahead with you.
I did receive, just after the agenda was printed and published, we did receive a letter to the board, to myself and the board. It is my intention to retire from the Board of Education, or from the Brooklyn Elementary School on the last day of school in June 2018. Kathleen Schwab is a kindergarten teacher. She will have taught for 30 years, and she's proud to have served the families of Brooklyn, Connecticut. She asked that we please accept her letter as notification of her retirement.
Well, I would definitely make a motion to accept that, and with, best wishes for her continued future and for a tremendous job with our system.
And appreciation for all she's done. I mean, she's a wonderful teacher.
30 years is
Will
a
be missed.
great commitment to our place, so we appreciate that. All right.
Get the vote on that.
Yes, we have to vote on
All right. We actually, wait,
Wait,
say
wait,
no, we don't accept?
You're retired if she wants to.
that. No,
No, you can't.
We're not accepting retirements at this point. All right, so, do we need a second?
I'll second.
Okay, can we go second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
With regrets, best wishes. And we want to know where the lake house is, so. Anything else under administrative reports that you need to mention at this point? Okay, just wanted to make sure that everything's here. All right, committee reports, we did budget a little bit earlier. Policy, we are going to be talking about in a little bit. Any other, negotiations ongoing, that will finalize this week?
Hopefully.
No, it will finalize this week. And that was, is Al still here?
Yes.
Right now?
Not paying attention.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
We'll
Finding my
finalize, and Amanda was here, we'll finalizing negotiations this week. Just
Putting it out there.
As I told Kristen and their group of teachers, we are not staying until 3 o'clock in the morning. So I've done really well with my work ethic and that stuff. So good. Liaisons to other committees. I was at the Board of Finance meeting. Of course, that was before the governor decided to, lay the smack down to the rest of us. So I think the conversation's a little bit changed since we had just talking about budget and what we were going to do with the original cuts that we were talking about, and now just monkey wrenches thrown all around and back to the drawing table for everybody pretty much. Anything else? They did set the town meeting date for the.
Don't look at me.
It'll be in the
Ask
paper.
Mr. Boschio.
The 14th, right?
December 14th?
December 14th.
It's also on the meeting agenda for tomorrow night.
Okay,
I think the call of the meeting is being set.
okay, okay. So they're working on setting the town meeting to ask for our initial deficit from last year and also to approve the line of credit, which now may possibly turn into another bigger story. So to be continued, so to speak. EastCon?
EastCon, yes. Couple things, it just highlights TEAM, which is the teacher mentor program, was actually the software was created by EastCon, and they ran, fed the rest of the state RESCs like CREC and ACES and LEARN, fed the program through EastCon to any district in the state of Connecticut. As a result of budget cuts, no longer is a grant being provided to EastCon for those services. The new legislation more or less puts the responsibility onto each district to do their own teacher mentor program. So this is a huge loss for EastCon in terms of relationships, revenue, all of that they have within the state. And they're working together with the RESC Alliance with all the other 9 areas within the state to try and come up with a program. There's been a lot of question about, what do we do now? How do we, are we saying that, there's hybrid programs within each district? So Gary Mala, the new executive director at EastCon, is working closely with the RESC Alliance to come up with some sort of a new plan, but he is committed to all of the 14 areas, well, actually 32 towns within EastCon's area that EastCon will continue to provide the team support to those districts. So he wanted me to share that with them. They designed a program, it's in place, it's working well, it's still available to all. They have their legislative breakfast at EastCon scheduled for next Thursday, December 7th, and that's from 7 to 9, and that invitation is extended to anyone else who would like to join me. Let me think of what the other, EastCon is also, as you probably know, working closely with districts for the newly enacted law regarding Medicaid reimbursements, and they're providing that service if needed. The other thing that has become very hot for most of the regional education services centers like EastCon is cooperative purchasing. And I know that we participate in much of what EastCon offers, but that's for food service, fuel, custodial supplies, copiers. There's a number of groups around the state that offer the same, like CASBO, even the state offers cooperative purchasing programs, but there's a number of districts that are involved already in this cooperative plan. And I just wanted to reinforce that that is available to us, and we should be looking at it if we haven't already. And those are really the hot things with EastCon. That's it.
May, anything from recreation?
No.
No. Woodstock Academy?
I'm sorry, who are you?
Woodstock Academy. We met last night. It's a very full week of meetings. We met last night and they did vote to sign our contract.
Yay.
So that's all taken care of officially now.
Yep, that's the Brooklyn contract with Woodstock. Yep, 10 years.
We were the last ones.
We were the
to
last
have a
ones of all the
contract.
sending towns with Woodstock Academy, but we now have the contract. So thank you to our superintendent.
10-year renewal.
Yes, with a rollover.
Get a rollover. What else was last night? They talked about the audit a little bit.
The academic report from Mike Hartman.
Oh, yes, I wanted to
The
mention
Dean of
that.
Academics.
He talked about Woodstock Academy overall, kind of in relation to the state, and they've extended an offer to come and talk to us about Brooklyn in relation to Woodstock as a whole.
So our SAT scores, our
Yep.
PSAT scores,
How,
where
where
our
we're
kids stand.
above, where we're below, where we're the same.
Yeah, and usually they come in March, but I wanted to check and make sure that that was good for you. In terms of visitors, yeah, so come to the March meeting. Yep.
They come and do a little presentation and make it specific for Brooklyn.
Yeah.
With that, they talked about, there's no Woodstock, no Brooklyn kids yesterday for awards.
Not for headmaster awards, but there were students that, for the Eastern Regional Music Festivals.
Yes.
Stephen Magenden and Linda St. Laurent. Yes. And then they mentioned that the Hill Singers, which a number of Brooklyn kids are involved in, will be at the mansion in Hartford on December 8th, which is wonderful. And then they're hosting a children's holiday party at the Grafton Memorial Library. That'll be led by scouts, local scouts. Kind of neat and fun. They talked about some of the new academic spotlights as a result of adding Hyde into the folds, called the South Campus of Woodstock Academy. Some of the highlights that I thought were interesting is, of course, the two areas that have expanded there, art and music. They now have an art remix course, which includes traditional and digital art methods, and it's become very popular with the students. And they have a history of rock and roll and the music biz, which is being offered down at the South Campus, and an introduction to musical theater. And then their ECE offerings for music fundamentals are partnered with UConn's music theory program. So that's kind of a neat thing where kids can earn credits in music. And The Gleaner came out, which is the Woodstock Academy's new magazine. This is a draft, yes, and they forgot my name. Thank you, Kelly. But anyway, this is a draft if anybody would like to see it. And I also have copies of the Brooklyn contract with Woodstock if anybody would like to see that as well.
Which I think we voted on in June.
We did.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
Right. Kate.
Oh, okay. So, well, you were there too. No. I'll talk about it as the area 4. Okay, as the area 4 district rep. Very happy that Denise Giza and Mrs. Buell worked hard to put together our legislative breakfast. We hosted the first one here last year. We had a really great turnout. We had state representatives and senators and our wonderful Board of Ed, and an opportunity for all the different boards of ed and superintendents within the footprint I'm responsible for, which is Union, Woodstock, Thompson, Ashford, Eastford, Pomfret, Putnam, Killingly, Brooklyn, Sterling, Plainfield, Canterbury, Sprague, and Griswold. And the majority of those showed up, which was wonderful. Our cafeteria did a really, really nice job with a buffet, and Kate pays for that buffet, which is very nice too. And we have our breakfast scheduled this year for January 22nd of 2018. These lovely invitations that Denise was nice enough to put together for us are here and available. And it's a save the date for now. You'll be receiving a more formal invitation, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun, given what's come out of the legislative session. Maybe they won't show up. I don't know. Yeah, so that's really the big thing that's going on with Kate.
What time is that breakfast?
7 to 9.
Yeah, it's a Monday, right?
Unless you want to come help me, then you can come at 6. Right. Yes.
All right, and it's not really committee, but Mrs. Buell, Joan, Kelly, and myself attended the CAPE convention, which was a fabulous 2 days worth of training with a sucker punch in the middle, literally in the afternoon. I swear we were in one of the conference rooms, doing our training, and you could hear screaming, and that's when everybody was getting emails about the governor and all this wonderful cuts. So that kind of set everybody off into Twitter. But it was just some unbelievable speakers. The gentleman from Yahoo was, it was just hysterical. Absolutely, just a wonderful, engaging speaker. And some great information on just some process with boards of ed and looking at curriculum and looking at different ways to do things and realizing how special our district is, and as a part of the things that we have to deal with or not have to deal with here we're pretty fortunate and pretty lucky.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, when you share space in an environment like that at convention, You know, and this attendance was much lower than past years because no one has any money, so they weren't sending people. But still, with the 300 or so people that were there at convention, the local boards of ed, to be able to network with them, to hear from New Haven and, you know, Bridgeport and the challenges they've had, if you haven't seen on the news, you know, even Windsor and some other towns, the things they're going through. And as hard as it is for everyone in this budget crisis, you know, to hear from other people about, you know, much more monumental challenges is pretty intense. But like Amy said, you know, here we were with all the boards of ed and superintendents from the state enjoying our annual convention. And on Friday afternoon, you know, I was moderating a session, ironically, on legislative issues, and you could just see superintendents popping up all over the room and leaving. And it was because they received an email that, you know, again, more cuts have been made to our budget. Just devastating, absolutely devastating. The timing couldn't have been worse. You know, the Commissioner of Education had been there at our convention, had presented with the state board, had left, and then the bomb gets struck. So the timing was not well. But I will say, you know, at the delegate assembly, which I attended on Thursday night as your representative, thank you for letting me go. There was a lot of good stuff that came out of that. And I know, you know, for those of us that have been doing this for a very long time, some of this is, you know, we've heard this before, but at least it's been put forth. So as a result of the legislative session, I wanted to make you aware of the task force and councils that have been formed. One is for special education, again, the cost model and the feasibility study, so that when these task forces are put in place, they try to include everybody in the feasibility study. So it's CAVE, CASPO, CAPS, CAS, CCM, the RESCs. So I know there's a lot of acronyms, but they try to include, you know, everybody that could be a stakeholder in this process. So one thing that came out was the special education task force and feasibility study kick off soon. The other ones that should be highlighted were the something called CARES, which is the Connecticut Achievement and Resource Equity in Schools Commission, which is a 60-member commission to make recommendations on education funding to the Appropriations and Education Committee. It includes the governor and the OPM, the Office of Policy Management. And the other one that I thought was worthy of making you aware of is the Digital Citizenship, Internet Safety and Media Literacy Advisory Council. And that council really stemmed out of the student data privacy issue that came up. So that was a task force appointed. A school climate task force was also appointed, which is a 13-member task force at the state level about reviewing, streamlining, and aligning the state policies on school climate, bullying, and safety, and social emotional learning. And those were the highlights. There's another one that's related to athletics, more high school related. But the delegate assembly, you know, was a success. My hope is, as a Board of Education, as we move forward, that we can, you know, be more participatory in terms of looking at what is before the legislation and how we can impact that, writing amendments and things like that that can be included for reference. So hopefully we'll get there. I believe in us. Yep.
Any other liaison things that I missed? No. Old business, transmitting. Oh, sorry.
I don't think, I don't know about the liaison, but the building.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a yes. Yes.
They met with the building committee last night on the school roof. The middle school is complete. However, I guess there was a little bit of water breach during the heavy rain, so they will be back and they'll be working on that. They didn't seem to think it was too serious, something about a drain. And then the elementary is 99.9% complete. They expect that to be done by February, and the manufacturer rep will be out next week to do a punch list, and I'm expecting a lot of issues on that. We've been reimbursed for several payments. There's several more to come. They've held back retainage while the punch list is done, but you know, probably the project will be closed out by February. But I guess they're pretty much done.
Did you say they're not going to be done until February?
Well, by time they do the punch list and get
Okay.
everybody, make sure everything, we have to sign off on it, or maybe the payments will be in by February.
Okay.
Expect, yeah, well, he said it expected to be done, the roof itself by Friday of this
Okay.
week.
I know
So
that
then
they
this will be, both roofs will be done.
They mentioned at the Board of Finance meeting that the payments were taking a little bit longer after submission to be reimbursed.
Right.
A little bit longer, like 90 days or
Oh,
more.
I was trying to be nice.
They can't, and they can only submit them every 2 months, so.
Well, yeah, so it's
90
so that's
days, 2 months to
changed,
submit.
yes, so that's changes slightly from what the original story was, but, you know, it is the
So I
same,
think
so.
the final submission can't go until February.
So, well, it's, at least it's rolling in the right direction.
It's as long as
Almost
they
done.
cure the water leak.
That's right.
I said, I did make the comment, roofs only have one job, and they really shouldn't be. Anyway, but that's almost done.
Transportation update.
So just briefly, again, I feel like this is a repeat. We've talked about this every month. Last month I reported to you that we were waiting for some revised bus routes. Those were received, I believe, the week before Thanksgiving. We received them in a format, so we were trying to decide how we would look at those. There were some potential changes, which would create some shorter routes for some students, especially high school students. So there were some adjustments made to that. My plan would have been to present or to publish the new routes for parent review to look at and for feedback for roughly a week, post it on the website, and then start the new transportation sort of that next week. The format we got them in was not complete and needed some significant overhaul, so we're in the process of that. Some of the routes were published with drop-off times and some were not. And so we needed to get some additional information. I believe that we did get that at the end of last week. That Thanksgiving week.
What day is it?
Yeah, so we did get it. I just have not turned it around, which then kind of folds into this whole budget discussion. And so if we are looking at anything that might impact buses, do I change the buses and then in 3 more weeks change it again? So I was somewhat hesitant to put it out there for a review to then ask you to review it again in 3 weeks. So at this point, I've just put it on the side until we can make some of these decisions that we have to.
Are you getting less calls?
We're getting less calls,
Good.
yes. And
Is
they're
that
very,
because it's gotten better or because people gave up?
Little movement.
we're getting less calls. And, I don't know what the reason is, so I'd like to think I do think it's gotten better. So at this point, I'm not going to put anything out for review or potential changes until we make decisions about where we're going.
All right, so under new business, enrollment report.
So the enrollment really is very consistent from last month. The enrollment report looks very similar. I have been using the same format, just adjusting the numbers as necessary. It just, when you look at the class size and when you're looking at the decisions we have to moving forward, you can see what those class sizes are. Really not much change. Under new business, I also included the Killingly High School tuition. So this evening, Killingly High School has a Board of Ed meeting. They are looking to set the tuition and in a similar fashion to like Woodstock has done in the past and come up with something that they will agree to a tuition that we can then budget and move forward and know what the budget is when we actually write the budget. So just so you know, they'll come through with that. They'll use a number based on our October 1st enrollment number. And then we can plan moving forward.
It would be nice if we could get there with Killing too.
Yes. Just under enrollment, I see some of you have that in your folder. There was a high school enrollment report, a little more detailed, has some of the tuition information on there. That's a spreadsheet that I started when I first got here, and we just kind of continue to update that. Kathy has updated those numbers for us so that we can, so you can see where that $200,000 short overage is in high school tuition. But we'll continue to track it that way. I can include that report in your monthly packet if you're interested.
Yeah, I want to study it.
Yeah.
Can we study it and talk about it next month?
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it shouldn't change much other than the enrollment, but it just gives you an idea of how that tuition is calculated.
Mm-hmm. So the KHS numbers does not include capital cost.
That's correct. That is, that capital cost is billed separately, and it's passed right through to the town who pays that capital cost.
And that's only based on students that are registered at.
Yes.
And is that the same every year, Jeff? Do you know? It's per student. Does that capital cost number fluctuate?
Yes, it has fluctuated in the past, and I don't really remember the reasons. I think it has to do with changes of the financing conditions, the interest rate,
Okay.
and
If there's improvements or anything, do we get hit for that too? You know, let's say they make some changes structurally or
No,
within,
modifications to the building funded under the bond are considered to be maintenance or that sort of thing. That's
Okay.
killing these responsibilities.
Right.
So that's only, the amount that we are charged is only for the actual building of the initial structure.
That's good.
Okay.
Actually, sorry, I'm having a little constipation here. It also depends upon the fraction of Brooklyn students relative to the total number of students in the
Right.
school. So
Right.
if we utilize a greater portion of the investment that they've made, then we pay more.
Okay.
Yes, constipated.
All right. All right, so we also have first view for policies, so you got homework.
So just so you, I know this is slightly different than you've done it in the past, but similar. So this is the first read for these. This is the first stack of policies. Just so you know, on some of them, I have indicated whether or not we have a policy, whether this is a minor revision, or whether we don't have a policy already like this. All of our policies are available on our website. They're searchable by name or number, so it's really very easy to use. So if you choose to pull up the policy, existing policy, and look at this policy in comparison. And then I also indicated there are some policies in here that are suggested but not required. So I just indicated that on the beginning of the policy, just so you know. We may choose not to include these policies in ours, so, but they're all there for your review. We'll have more stacks of them on future months.
Yay. All right, so all right, and then next in your folders, you will see we have to set the dates for the Board of Education meetings for the next calendar year. So you can see that the green dates are the fourth Wednesday of the month. And next year, we're good with, just like this year, we're good with Thanksgiving because the fourth Thursday is actually the week before, so we're all good. The only one that we would have to change from the fourth Wednesday of the month is the meeting in December because school is closed down the week of Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's. And the Board of Finance is on the 19th, so we would need to make our meeting on the 18th.
Yeah, it's gonna be Woodstock night.
That's Woodstock's night.
It's not necessarily.
Well, I'm just saying, I know that we can't,
Right, it's
okay,
not-
so we can't be the 19th, so, because that's Board of Finance, and that, I'm not saying that it has to be the 18th, but I wasn't sure of the, I'm just going to look. The Woodstock schedule, so.
Wait, no, there's no board meeting in December. It's just committees.
Right. Yeah.
It's just committees. I don't
Okay,
have
so the
it in
18th, the 18th is fine then?
Yep.
Okay, all right, so,
Well, it's always scheduled, but it's usually canceled.
It has been in the.
It
Right.
is, yes. We don't
Ours
have
has
one.
been
It's
too,
just
yeah.
committees in that definitely meet in December.
okay. All right, so, do we have any questions?
Motion to approve the calendar for 2018 for Board of Ed meetings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go. All right, so those are set. So I'm gonna tell you now. Put them in the calendar for the year. Got your meetings for the year now. Okay. That's real good. Legislative committee discussed, we already set the meeting for Monday. So that is all set. That is good. Right. And do. Any other business that anybody else has that we neglected to discuss that I forgot? Did they need to the agenda? Okay, public comment.
Good evening. My name's Amy Landis, 65 Fairway Drive. I know in the big picture, this might not seem like a big issue, but because transportation was on the agenda tonight, I figured I'd make a couple comments. One of the issues we've had on our bus route in the afternoon, and I can't tell you the bus numbers because they've changed multiple times this year. One concern I have is I'm not sure how safe it is to have 3 middle school students in a seat in a bus. My child plays the saxophone. We had to make arrangements on the bus to fit her and a child and a saxophone. But I think that they combined routes, and now there are so many children on the bus. I don't know how safe that is. My other comment is, it's almost December 1st. The bus, my middle school children are finally getting to school with some time to spare. And now there's discussion, the bus drivers have passed along to myself and to the students that as of Monday, the route may be changing again and buses are being combined and they may be getting picked up before 7 a.m. or 7:45, which then leads them getting to school after the start time, which was what was happening at the beginning of the school year where I drove my children for almost 6 weeks until a new bus route was put together for them, because I don't feel like a child should be getting to school 10 minutes, 15 minutes after the start of school. Even if the classes are being held, it just sets a bad tone to the day, and I'm not willing to put my children in that situation in the morning. So I just wanted to give those thoughts. I haven't heard anything. I did leave a message today in the superintendent's office. I haven't heard anything personally yet from the school, but I know that's the word on the street from the bus drivers that there are changes coming next week. So I'm hoping that I'll hear something if that is the case and if those changes are being made. Thank you.
Any other comments? AJ?
I just have a little kudos and a thank you, basically. I know you mentioned as you guys were running through about the
AJ, you
transportation.
want to just state who you are and where you're from? Here's
AJ Kerouac from Brooklyn. Just a kudos and a thank you again with the buses.
for Norwich. I know I mentioned it a few times. It's just the power of a conversation and asking for a little bit of help and consideration. So it sounds like that was extended, and that's wonderful. So however that came about, great job, and thank you for doing that.
Any other public comment? All right, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session regarding the board evaluation. There will be no voting or decisions, no action based on this executive session. So feel free to stay with us, but I'm just telling you nothing's going to happen when we come out, I promise you. We're coming out to adjourn is what we're going to do. I'm just giving you the heads up so you're not here for however long we're here. So I would entertain a motion for that. Second. One second. All in favor? Aye. So 2021, we're going to go into executive session. Yeah, so, yep, he's gonna shut us down. We're all set. Thank you, Mr. Otto. Sure, we'll see you soon.
No, it's not that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.